Hi guys, and welcome back to the Uninkable Dads podcast. And on today's episode, we're going to be teaching you how to play Lorcana in 2025. Also, later in the episode, we'll be going through our flavor text game. Did you get it? Did you write in the comment below and let us know what you think it was? And what else have we got coming up on today's episode, Grand Declan?
Well, it's been quite a week in the ink, actually. So, we had an Uninkable Dads 1 and 2 at our locals. We've got to talk about that. There was a winner box this weekend, so we have a report from there. And the debate that's really firing up the community right now is the Uninkable Dads podcast having too much influence over the local meta? So stay tuned for later on in the podcast when we open up that debate. Cool. Okay, so FPSMadness, Lorcana in 2025. For somebody that's just maybe found the game, then maybe a Disney fan wondering what this is all about, what is a Disney Lorcana all about?
Well, Disney Lorcana is a trading card game full of loads of wonderful different cards and different artworks, and it is all about questing. There are other elements. You've got challenging and other elements we'll get onto later in the episode. But the main goal and your way to win in Disney Lorcana is to quest. And you quest up to the magical number of 20, which is on our lore counter right here.
Awesome. So that sounds amazing. I mean, who wouldn't want to team up with Elsa, Stitch, or Mickey Mouse to create an epic adventure and get to that magical number of 20 lore? So how do we do it? I mean, what do we need to get started in this game?
So to get started, really, the only thing you need as such are obviously the cards themselves. So there are a massive range of different cards to get going with. There are different products to get you going. So there are starter decks, and there are troves, and there are booster boxes, and there's so many different ways you can collect the cards. And so many different things come with accessories to play the game, but technically speaking, to actually play, you only really need the cards. Some form of managing damage and other elements would be helpful, but they're not necessarily to play the game. But the main thing will be your characters. So these are just two characters I've taken from this deck here. We'll go through this deck in a little bit, but these are just two character cards. And the main elements you'll see which are different on here is the top, which is an uninkable card, and an inkable card. Again, we'll get onto uninkables and inkables a bit later on. And then the only other differences mainly here are the strength, which is this little spiky number, and the willpower, which is this shield. Now this one has 2 strength and 2 shield, and this has 1 and 4. So they are the main elements on a character card. There is text below which tell you what the character does, but every card's going to have a different ability. Some of them may not have any at all.
Cool. So I see Daisy Duck and Piglet there are all my favourite Disney characters available. And how many of these cards do I have to play with?
Well, a deck will consist of a minimum of 60 cards. You have to have a minimum of 60 card deck, and you have to have a maximum number of 4 of each. So that doesn't mean you can only run 4 daisies. You can run more, but you can only run 4 daisies Donald staked. That secondary text underneath is what the card's called, and therefore you can only run a maximum of 4 of these cards in your deck. Apart from that, you are limited to 2 ink colours. So you can see the ink colours on our playmat behind us here, which is amber, amethyst, emerald, ruby, sapphire, and steel. And you're allowed to pick up to 2 colours. You can run 1 if you wish to, and not many people do, but it is possible. So you can pick of any 2 combination you like, and they will allow you then to start building a deck. So 60 card minimum and 4 maximum of any type of card.
So I've got my deck, I've got my counter to count up to my 20 lore. You said some dice you've got there, or something to mark a sort of damage counters. So am I playing this game on my own, or am I in a group, or do I play against someone? How does that work?
So as a standard, it is played against one opponent, so it's normally a 1v1 situation. There you can play as multiple people. You can have 4, 5, 6. You can have as many as you like. Obviously, you have to potentially change the outcome of how high a lore you want to go up to, depending on the number of people. But as a standard, it is played 1v1. And normally it's best of 3. So you get to decide who's going to go first, normally by a roll of a dice. And then from there, you take turns going first until you have best of 3 winner.
So you've got some cards there that don't look like they are Disney characters. They look like they've got other things on them. What are those other cards?
Yeah, so the 4 main types in Disney Lorcana is your character cards. You have song cards, which are wonderful friends on the other side here. They are indicated that there is a song underneath. There are action-only cards, but I don't have any of them here. They're basically the same thing, but you can't sing them. We'll get on to singing a little bit later, but that is your other option. It's an action or a song card. Following that, you have an item card. Now, songs you get to play, and once it's been used, it goes into your discard. Whereas an item card, like a character, will stay on board until it's banished. You can tell it's an item by this little gold ribbon around the outside. That is the only type of card that has that. And that basically goes in play and stays in play until either the text underneath or it's banished for another form. And then the last type you can get, which is new for any players that may have joined later into the game, which are now locations. Now, locations are like item cards. They will come in and stay on the board until told otherwise, basically. On a location, you have different abilities, but we'll go into locations later. But they are the 4 main types of cards.
Fantastic. So we've got our cards. I'm excited about the singing bit, so I look forward to getting there. And what do we do to get started, to start a game?
So to start a game, we would put everything to one side, make sure you have a nice clear playmat. The clearer you can keep your game station or your playmat, the easier you will find playing the game. So I put my lore counter up here in the corner, and I will put my dice underneath, and then my deck will go on the other side. Now, I will give this deck a quick little shuffle. There are loads of different ways you can shuffle. I won't go too much into that, but the easiest way, especially for newer players, is to basically lay them out on the playmat. So you'd lay them out into 8 piles. You do this for the whole lot. Place them in different places. Don't necessarily go in the same order every time. You haven't got to make sure they're the same numbers or anything like that. Once you've laid them all out, just pick them back up. Pick them up again in a random order if you can. It'll help randomize the cards in amongst your deck. So once you've done that, you'll have a nicely shuffled deck. Obviously, there are different ways, and you can learn different ways of shuffling, but that is going to be the easiest for new players. Once you're from there, you want to decide who's going first. So the easiest way, and the way most people do it, is a 2 dice roll. So you pick 2 dice and you roll. So I got a 4 here, so my opponent would need to beat a 4. So they can use the same dice or use their own dice. So the chances of getting that. So from there, I would be the person who gets to decide whether I'd go first or second. And again, as a new player, I would highly recommend going first every time if you can. So I would say I will go first. And then from there, you draw your opening 7 cards. So once you've got your 7, this is going to be your opening hand, and you get what's called an alter. So you get to mulligan or alter your hand. Now, there is loads of guides into mulligan guides and deck guides and stuff like that. We're not going to go too depth into that. We're just going to go through the simple basics of how to play the game to begin with. So the one thing I would say any new player is try and keep a full range 1 to 4 if you can of inkable cards. So we'd keep a Diablo, Simba, a Donald, and a Snow White. Now the reason is the Pascal, which we will go over in a second, is uninkable, and I'll show you why that's important in a second. So we're not going to keep those, and we've already got a 2, so there's no point having 2 other 2s, so we'll get rid of those 2. So when you alter, they are going to go to the bottom of your deck, and you would draw the same amount that you altered back. So in this case, we draw 3. We nearly draw the same 3, but the idea is that there are obviously higher cards in this deck, and you're trying to find those different cards. But worst case scenario, we know we've got a good start of the first 2 to 3 turns.
Yeah. If you've got a deck anything like mine, you'll find that it will hate you at times and give you back exactly the cards that you tried to throw away. But when you put the cards back, can we put any number of cards back, or is there a limit to how many cards we put back?
We can, yeah. We are quite lucky in Lorcana that we can actually say, do you know what? I don't like these 7. I'm going to put the whole 7 back. That is completely up to you. Like I say, mulliganing does take a lot of practice, and it is one of the hardest decisions in Lorcana. But once you've gotten the hang of it, you will soon realise what you need to do for your deck. But if you want to put 1 back, put 1 back. If you want to do all 7, all 7. There are other games out there that don't let you do that, and you have to pick a certain amount. But with Lorcana, if you wish to get rid of all 7, you can do.
Cool. Okay. So now we've drawn our cards. We've done our altar, so we've got our starting hand. We know we're going first. Now, you mentioned inkable, uninkable. Yeah, I see there's symbols on them. Can I just play any card I want to play, or how does that work?
Yeah, so here I've changed one of the cards out to an uninkable card so we can show you. The rest of them are still the same. So from here, as a new player, I'd recommend organising them in number order in your hand, because that's going to give you a nice idea of what you can play and when. And from there, as you can see here, we have an inkable card, which has got this rose-like pattern around the outside, and an uninkable, which is just a plain hexagon. Now, the way you play these cards, they've all got different numbers, that is how much ink you need to be able to play the card. So, for instance, here, Daisy and Diablo both cost 1 ink to be able to play. So, with what I've got in my hand, I have 2 Simbas here. So, I'm not going to need both. So, I would choose to ink one. So, you would say to your opponent, I'm going to ink Simba, and you place that in your inkwell. Now, your inkwell could be anywhere on your playmat, but try and keep it in the same place each time. It will help you to learn where to place things. Most players will place it at the bottom. I would then exert Simba, paying 1 ink to play a 1-cost card. So it's up to me here whether I play Daisy or Diablo. So I will play Daisy down, as it's an uninkable card, so therefore I'm not going to be able to ink it later in the game. I will have to play it at some point, so I may as well play it now. From there, you turn your ink over, so that way you know you're done, and you'd pass to your opponent. Your opponent then would decide what they want to do on their turn. Now, the important thing is when you're going first, you do not draw for your first turn, but you do going forward for the rest of the game. So when the opponent passes back, you would ready, set, and draw. So you ready your cards and your ink, and you draw, and that is the start of your turn. So from there, you would then do the same thing again. You'd pick what you want to ink. So here I would say, okay, well, I'd like to get Simba down, because Simba's a bodyguard. We'll come across bodyguards and stuff like that. Bodyguard basically means that they cannot challenge any other character until they've challenged this one. So I will ink Diablo, and then I will pay 2. So I exert my ink and pay 2 for Simba in a bodyguard. And then at this point, this is where you then get onto the situation how you win the game, which is questing. So with Daisy here, don't worry about all this text. We're not going to go into that today. But the main thing here is she has 2 lore pips. So that means that when she quests, you gain 2 lore. So I'm going to exert Daisy and quest for 2. So then you'd get your lore counter and move it up to 2. Obviously, there are different ways of recording lore, whether you want to use a pen and paper, or some people use apps and so forth. But the easiest way to begin with, because you do get one of these in a trove, I believe, is nice, quick and easy way to sort it out. So from there, I turn my ink over and pass turn to my opponent.
Awesome. So I'm liking the flavour of all this. So I'm building up ink, and I'm using that ink to I guess draw out these characters onto the board. I'm sending them off on quests, so creating a bit of a Disney story. My characters are questing away, they're bringing back lore, and that's how I'm winning the game. Absolutely brilliant. So is that it? I put my characters down and I quest with them. Can they do anything else?
Well, there's a couple of things that do trip you up on the way. So I will ready my ink and ready my characters and draw for my turn. So one of the main things is things have to dry. So as we are using ink here to play our characters, or our, what are they called?
Glimmers.
So I will ink a Lilo and play a Piglet. Now, Piglet has a special ability that gains extra lore when you have 3 characters. So you might go, well, you got 3 characters, that one's going to quest for free. But unfortunately, when you first play a card, because you've used ink to play it, it has to dry. So Piglet cannot do anything for this turn. Same for Daisy and same for Simba. So when I first played Daisy, I couldn't quest with her. That's why I didn't do anything until I played Simba. Simba comes in exerted. That's the only reason he was exerted. Otherwise, he would stay in this form. But Piglet cannot quest this turn. So I can still quest using Daisy and Simba and gain 3, which would take me up to 5, I believe. Yep. But I cannot quest with Piglet this turn. So that's one thing that you do have to be aware of. Obviously, I've spent my 3 ink to play Piglet. 2 ink. 2 of my 3 ink to play Piglet, but I can't use her in this turn. Now, the other option you do have, which if we look as if we've processed a little bit further into the game. So if we fast forward the game a little bit here, just to show you another element. So over on this side here, these cards have been banished. Now, we will go into why and possibly how they got banished in a minute. I don't know why those cards are that way around. And the other thing we can do is we can sing. Now, what's more delightful in the world than getting Snow White to sing Friends on the Other Side? You know, what more could you want? So with songs, any character that has the same cost or higher can sing that card. So Snow White is a 4 cost, so she can sing a 3 cost song. So to do that, you would say, I'm going to get Snow White to sing Friends. You'd exert Snow White, because you can only quest, challenge, or sing in a turn. You can't do all 3, so you have to pick. And Snow White.
And do we actually have to sing the song?
You don't have to, no. You could sing it yourself.
Do you get extra points for singing it?
I mean, you might do. You know, I'm sure there's a few famous YouTubers out there that love singing songs, you know. And a clip here.
We're going to see it. We ink them out. We go up to 7 ink breezy. And here it comes. Be prepared.
Cut off. The audio cut off. Oh, no.
You know, but there are multiple ways you can either get a character to sing or you could pay for it yourself. Here, I have no cards in hand, so I can't do anything with my ink. So therefore, it doesn't make sense to sing this, to play this. But if I get someone to sing it, so now I've got her to sing, so I would then fill out this card, which in this case is draw 2 cards. So I would draw 2. That then goes into the discard. And then I've got 2 cards that I can then use my ink on. Obviously, all songs are different abilities. They're not all draw cards. There are going to be different things out there, but that is an example for that one. And then, obviously, I can play one of these. So I'm going to say I'm going to play Rapunzel for my 4 ink. I'm going to turn my ink sideways, play Rapunzel, and then question my other cards. So 2 and 3 for this one. So 5 in total, taking me up to 10. Now, I only gain 5 on that one because obviously Snow White has sung, so therefore you can't quest with it.
So you can either quest or you can sing. If you quest, you get your lore pips off the card. If you sing, you're not questing, so you don't get your lore. You're getting quite well into the game here. You've got 10 lore already. On my side, is there anything I can do to stop you from getting this lore?
Yeah, so this is where the important element of the strength and the willpower of the cards come in. So as we said before, we've got 2 strength here, which is the little spiky number, and 2 willpower, which is the shield. That's basically its attack and health is another way of looking at it. And basically, these cards both have the same. So when I'm going to take this ready up as if it was the start of my turn, and I would draw. Say my opponent now, for argument's sake, is on the other side of the board here. We'll put these 2 out of the way, just for example. And say they have a Piglet, and I have a Snow White. So my Snow White, with her 2 attack, can damage Piglet by 2. So I want to take out Piglet. Now, unfortunately, you can't challenge ready characters. So if this has just been played, or if they haven't quested or sung or anything like that, if the card is in this state where it's upright, you can't challenge it. So, but if they had quested this turn or sung a song this turn and it is sideways, I am then free to challenge it. So in this state, I can say, well, my Snow White is going to do 2 damage to Piglet. So that does 2 damage to that. That only has 2 willpower, so that is damaged. But you do take damage in return. So whatever that card has would then do damage back. So this also has 2, mine has 2, so therefore this would get banished. So they would both trade and they'd both get banished. Now, if you had a situation where, argument's sake, you had a Piglet and they had a Daisy, they had quested or sung, so it is exerted and free to challenge. My Piglet here would do 2 damage, so that's where the dice come in, and you would put 2 damage onto Daisy. I would then need an additional character to try and finish Daisy's health off. So Piglet would be exerted because she has challenged Daisy. Daisy does 1 attack in return, so therefore you bring in 1. And then Snow White could then challenge to do a further 2 damage. And now the damage on Daisy is equal or above her willpower, so therefore she is banished. And Snow White would take 1 damage in return.
Okay, great. So just remind us again, because we're going back and forwards. At the start of my turn, you said something about readying and setting. Just remind us how that works.
Yeah, so ready, set, draw is the start of everything, and I've tried a number of times to hone this into Millie when I've been teaching my daughter to play, that it is the most important, one of the most important steps. If you don't ready, set, draw, and you just ready, you're going to miss your draw and you'll very quickly run out of cards in hand. So at the start of your turn, argument's sake, say I've played a card this turn, so my ink will be sideways. You ready your characters, set your ink, and then draw. So then that gives me a card in hand that I can then play this turn if I wish to.
I think good to get into good habits at the start of the game as well. We are intentionally showing you the more basic interactions in the game. As Michael said, there's lots of text on some of the cards. There's more advanced things you do as you get into the game, and you'll learn your way into them, so you'll pick them up easy enough. But if you get into good habits, as Mike said earlier, organising where things are on your board, going through the steps at the start of each turn, ready, set, draw, then you'll be really well set when you want to bring in some of these more complicated abilities and mechanics. They'll all just fit into the game naturally, and you won't be sort of catching yourself go, oh, I should have done that first before I did this.
100%. So this is, like we say, it is the ground roots of it. You have to learn this before you can evolve onto the next stage. And there are loads of products out there that can help you do this. One thing that we have used in teaching ourselves is the Lorcana Gateway. This is basically a board game. So it comes with a board and everything you need to basically learn to play the game right from the ground up. So this will introduce each part of the game and each element as you go, and it can really help new and young players really grasp the basics before you move on to other things. For anyone that has played TCGs before and you've come to check to see what Lorcana's about, you have things where you can pay for ink for a genie, for instance, and genie lets me draw a card. So there's other ways to get in card draw. There's more elements to it, that will stop challenges and stuff like that. But the real basics is your ready, set, draw, quest, sing, or challenge. And once you've got those foundations down, you can then really build upon the game from there.
Fantastic. So we've got a bit of strategy in there as well, whether to quest, whether to challenge. Now, what we haven't seen in here is a couple of those other cards that you had earlier. And if you can just quickly show us what those items and locations do. how we use those?
Yep, so obviously these are from a different deck, so it's not part of this, as you can tell by the sleeves. These are in blue sleeves, not pink sleeves. We'll go on to protecting your collection in a second. But these are two things here. So as you can see, another item with this gold rim around the edge. So when items come into play, they stay in play unless the card or another action tells you otherwise. So for this one, I would have to pay 1 ink. So I'd exert 1 ink, play this card, and this one lets me draw a card. So I would therefore draw a card for my turn. That then would stay there unless told otherwise. And then the other thing that we spoke about is locations. Now, I've tried to pick a nice easy location here. So it costs 4 to play this card. It is inkable. You have this little symbol here, which is how much it costs to move a character to a location. Now, different locations have this for a reason. So, argument's sake, this hidden cove here, as you can notice, has no lore down the side, but it does give characters different abilities once they're in this location. But to keep it nice and simple for now, we'll use MacDuck as a reference, that basically you would gain 2 lore at the start of your turn with this location. So if you had 4 ink, you could spend your 4 ink to play MacDuck, and again, that would go on board unless banished by another means, but it basically stays there until then. So therefore, if I then, argument's sake, say at the start of my turn, we were here, and you do the ready, set, and draw. So you ready your characters, you would set your ink, you would draw for turn, and then at that point, your location comes in, and you'd gain 2 lore from your location. So before you even do anything, you'd automatically gain 2 before you move on to the next stage of deciding what you want to ink and play.
And can I challenge your location? How do I stop that from sitting there and getting you yet more lore every turn?
Yep, so that is what this wonderful number here is, which is number 9. And as you can see from the character cards, it's in the same bubble as them, is in the shield, which means this needs to take 9 damage to be banished. So at the minute, my characters only do 2, 4, and 6, so I would need a bigger or stronger character on board. I don't know whether there is one in this deck at present, but if I laid out a couple more cards here like this, we can see that this one does 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So I'd have to exert all 4 of these to do 9 damage to MacDuck. And when you've done 9 damage, equal or above the willpower of the card, it would then get banished. So at that point, it then leaves the game.
And like when I challenge a character, do I take any damage back off of challenging a location?
You would, but there is no damage on here. So there is 9 willpower, but no damage. Doesn't say there won't be in the future, but currently there is no damage on any location. There's a nice big gap here if they do wish to add that, though.
Cool. Okay, so just we're questing along. Just remind me how we win.
So obviously the way you win this is by getting to the magical 20. So we're currently on 12. So if we reset this and we said, well, this turn we're going to quest. So we're going to quest for 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and then this one quest for an additional 2. So that takes it to 10. So we'd quest for 10 this turn, taking us to 22 or the magical 20. So you'd hit 20 before rolling over 22. So therefore you win.
Congratulations, champ. Cool. So just before we wrap up this section, have you got any tips for new players?
Take your time is a big tip that I try and get into any new player that asks me how to play the game. Take time, read cards. Is the 2 most important parts. There's a lot of cards, argument's sake, like Donald here, that when you play this character, a chosen character will gain 1 lore. So, argument's sake, say I only had Snow White on board here, and I was on 17 lore. Currently, 17 lore and the 2 from Snow White will not get me to 20. That'll only get me to 19. And if I played Donald and didn't read this card properly, I could quest with Snow White and go to 19. But if you do read it and give Snow White your additional lore that the card states, you would then get to 20. So by missing something little on the card, it may not seem a lot. It's very small text, but it can make a big difference in the game. So take your time, read the cards, and the most important bit, as I said before, is you're ready, set and draw. Because if you don't draw, you will very quickly run out of cards.
And of course, have fun. So hopefully that's given you some confidence to jump in and give this magical game of Disney Lorcana a go. You'll need a deck to get started. One of the ways, as Michael said there, is to get the gateway product. You can get it from your local game store. You can buy it from lots of places online. It's a really good way to start to learn the game. And at the end of it, you'll actually have 2 60-card decks ready to go. You can also buy a pack. You open it up and you will get random cards, and you might get that treasured legendary card that you're after. And if you want to get a good number of cards, you can buy a booster box. So a box which you've got on screen here if you're on YouTube. If not, jump over to YouTube, find the Uninkable Dads, click the subscribe button, give us a like while you're there, and you'll be able to see the booster box here. Booster box comes with 24 packs of cards, so it gives you a really good number of cards to get started. And that's where we set Michael a challenge. So the thinking was, let's say you were new to Lorcana, you wanted to get started, but when we look at a lot of deck lists, if you look at our other videos that we've done, we've got some great deck lists in there for you to go and have a look at. But a lot of competitive deck lists will have cards from each of the different sets in. We're now on set 7 currently. So what do you do if you're just starting, you haven't got these cards from other sets? That feels a bit of a hassle to try and go and buy different cards from different sets and put your deck together. So we set Michael the challenge of, you've bought a booster box, so you've got 1 box of set 7 cards. Obviously, we don't know what's going to be in there, but we can make a pretty good guess at the sort of ratios of cards that you're going to get. So Michael didn't get to decide that he was going to have a deck with 4 legendary Tamatoas in it. We put some restrictions around it. So you've opened your cards up. You've got some legendaries, which you would get in a booster box. You've got some super rares, some rares, lots of commons and uncommons, but all set 7 cards. And I said to Michael, you can have 20 quid on top to go and buy some cards from the other sets to make your deck complete. Michael went, no, I want to spend that on a new playmat. So I don't think he used hardly any of that, just to buy some cards from previous sets and put a deck together. And Michael, how did it go?
Yeah, I think it went quite well. So this is the deck I come up with. So we set in line to the challenge that I could have a maximum of 2 of any legendary. I actually pulled multiple Minnie Mouses throughout my boxes opening, so I think this is definitely doable from a box. And then the same for Super Res. I don't think there is actually any Super Res in this deck. There is. Sorry, Lady in the corner. Yep. So Lady down here is a super rare. So again, we went for a maximum of 2. This is quite easily achievable from a booster. And then we went for a maximum of 3 rares. So the rare cards are all maximum of 3. And then the uncommons and commons, you can go up to 4. The uncommons I tried to stay to 3. And then the commons I went to 4 because that's, again, should be quite easily attainable. If not, you're going to have local friends and players that, will quite happily, if they've got a spare, give you the common and uncommon cards. We do it ours. If anyone ever pops into the store and they're a new player, it's like, what do you want? Here, help yourself. We've got so much of it, So I went along those lines.
It's a trading card game, so, the clue's in the title. If you haven't got the cards you want, go and find someone who wants the card that you've got and see if you can trade it for the one you want.
Exactly. So I went with a Lady and the Tramp deck, which seemed to perform really well. Now, I've done a little bit of testing, and for new players, there is a website called Inktable, which I will show you in a second, which I played a few games on, and Inktable is versus an AI. So you're not against another player, you are against an AI opponent. but they are good. They are very, very well programmed. There's multiple settings for the AI. You have control, aggro, and like normal, like just standard. I put the AI on control. So they are trying to control the game. What that means is they are trying to stop me from doing anything, basically. They're trying to take out my characters and anything I have to stop me from gaining lore, basically. An aggro deck would be basically what this is, which is going to be, I want to quest as fast as I can. This is why there's a lot of characters in here that quest for 2, some of them quest for 3. So the idea is this deck wants to basically, don't worry about what your opponent's doing. I'm just going to quest as fast as possible and get to that magical 20. So, as you noticed, there are a couple cards in here that weren't set 7. So, Pegasus here, Simba, and the big Pegasus. I think that's it. Yes. No, invited to the ball. So, they are the only, 16 cards that aren't set 7. So, everything else was from set 7. Now, the reason I did this is because Pegasus into ship Pegasus gives everything evasive, so it just means that as an aggro deck, you're more likely to survive. Simba's a bodyguard, which I've also got Prince in here as a bodyguard, so we just want that. Try and stop and taking out our early characters, or playing this on, turn 4, for instance, with something else like a Baymax, which comes in exerted anyway. So this is to protect other things as you go further in the game. And I managed to do this on the magical 56p. So obviously here you've got the article value here of 56p. So these are the prices of each card here. Again, this was just on Card Market on the day. So this may have changed. These may now all be 2p. So I wouldn't be surprised. And normally they go, commons and uncommons go lower and they end up 2p eventually. Unless they're
often
really,
if you
really
go
popular
down,
card.
Often if you go down to your local game store, they may well have a box or a binder, or usually a box of what they might call 5p, 10p singles, bulk singles, and basically you can go and rifle through that box and pick out the cards that you want and just buy them there, so you haven't got to pay the shipping or worry about setting up an account
as
online.
much as if they may be selling it for 10p a card, as much as that seems a lot higher than 2, as you can see here, if I did buy these, it's going to cost me nearly 10 times the amount in shipping alone. So this is where your bulk box at your locals and stuff is always going to come in handy, because even if you pay 10p each for these, it's still not going to cost you as much as it would do on the shipping. So, and also helps out your local TCG store, which is also good. The more help we can give them, the more likely we are to have the game stick around. So, moving on from there,
we started off with a booster box and 20 quid. We've got our deck together. We've got change to buy a really snazzy looking playmat. But I guess the question is this any good?
Yeah, that's it. I mean, I'm a player that I have to play with sleeves. I can't not play with sleeves. So I would have spent my extra money on maybe a set of sleeves, or a play mat, or a binder, or something like that to really help build your collection if you are starting off as new. If you are doing that, we do actually have a link with VaultX. So if you go to VaultX's website, which is who I use for all my binders and stuff down here, they have given us a link for code Uninkable. So if you use that, you do get 10% off on your first checkout. But yeah, once you've got something like that, so maybe a booster box, a couple of quid on cards, pack of sleeves, and you're ready to go. Good little website, and it's good for practicing. It's good for testing out new decks before buying cards. So if there's a deck that you've seen online or a friend's using and you think, I really want to play that, but I don't know whether it's my style of deck, you can always try it on here, try it on Inktable, see how you get on. And if you enjoy it, then obviously maybe trade it out, or ask a friend if you can borrow a deck for a little while and see how you get on. But Inktable is always a good place to start. So I'm playing up against Ruby Sapphire, Steel Sapphire, or Sapphire Steel, which is currently a very, very strong deck in the meta. This is a very strong deck version that I inputted into Inktable. And we won't watch the whole thing, but I'll take you on to a bit later in the game. And as you can see, the game progresses. I start to get more and more out on board. I've got up to 14 here. They're only on 5, but for them, that's no worry. They just want to stop me at the minute. Their plan is basically for me to run out of cards in hand, run out of card draw, and then they win the game late game. So for that's completely normal. I wouldn't expect them to be on any higher at this point. Their main goal is to stop me from getting to 20, basically. So here, I'm questing away, trying to get as close as I can. Fire Steel will do its thing, and they will very, very quickly take control. So they start taking things out one after the other before I get a chance to do anything.
So it's looking a bit ominous here. You got not a lot of cards, and your opponent has got a lot of characters.
Yeah, just a bit. So at this point in the game, as an aggro player, you're hoping you can get over that line, but it's not going to be easy. Thomas O'Malley there is a very nice top deck for me. Thomas O'Malley does have ward, so therefore they can't target it with any songs or actions or anything. So I'm 90% sure I'm going to be able to quest with it here. But as you can see, with the amount of characters down, they quest for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 next turn, and then that's without any of their Dime and Tamatera and any of their big game stuff. So I think if any other character there, something that didn't have ward, it probably wouldn't stick. I would imagine they've got songs in hand to deal with this, especially with the amount of card draw they've currently got going on. I wouldn't have thought it would stick around at all. So Thomas O'Malley here from set 7 has been a really nice top deck, and it is the card that lets me finish this game and push it over the line. So I believe they finish out playing their last ink. They start questing away what they have left because they can't do anything else with it. And like I said, this is extremely close. They get up to 13, so next turn they easily win. I can question O'Malley here, but I'll just showing you the deck still had a little bit more gas. Ink turn, play a card, and then I'll quest. And as you can see from there,
victory.
They did have strength. So if this was any card that wasn't a warded character, strength would have taken it out, and then they would have quested for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 next turn. So yeah, ward is quite powerful as we're kind of working out in set 7.
Yeah, but I have to say, I mean, you're the one wearing a hat, but otherwise, I'll be hats off to you. I'm impressed. I actually thought that was a pretty tough challenge, to be honest, to restrict yourself to mainly set 7 cards. So, I was going to be quite impressed if you built a deck that was functional. You've built a deck that looks functional, fun, and beat the top deck in the game at present. So there you go.
I'm not going to lie, that wasn't obviously first attempt. I'm not claiming I did it in first game. It took a couple of games for me to work out what was the right plays with the deck. But for something that I built, like you say, just with a few cards from 90% cards from set 7 and 56p from other sets, you can quite easily build a deck that can go and win at locals. You can go win at locals. You can go win a set champs. You've got the opportunity to do it. Just because you don't have the top tier meta deck doesn't mean you can't win. You draw the right cards, they draw the wrong cards, you can win a game. That's 90% of the game. It is involving a little bit of luck because there is a deck and you have to draw from it. So it's whatever the deck decides it wants to give you.
Absolutely. So if you want the deck list, you want the spice, you want the tips and the strategy, you're in the right place. Remember to click that subscribe button so you don't miss future challenges and deck lists. And give us a thumbs up, give us a like while you're there. It really does help, and we'd be much appreciated of it. And actually, while you're there, what else do you want to challenge Michael with? If you've got another deck building challenge, he loves them. So pop it in the comments and let us know what we should try and build next.
Yeah, nice. Well, I think we've that's obviously a deck that we've now put out there, which obviously people can try. And it seemed like last week, talking about people running our decks, we go and do an episode with the Green Purple Master. I go play a winner box at the weekend, and all I come across is Green Purple. What are we doing? We're not allowed to do this. You know,
So this is it. This is the influence the channel's having. Yeah, people listen to us, and that's what it is. It was supposed to be Sapphire everywhere, but yeah, I had to. I watched the tournament via Melee and WhatsApp from home, but obviously, yeah, you were there playing. So, yeah, tell us a bit about what went down.
Yeah, it was a really good day. I mean, unfortunately, I got a little bit unlucky. You know, I didn't get like I said before, wrong cards at the draw at the wrong time, and it wasn't my day. So it is one of those ones. I took a what I'd like to think is a very powerful deck, and I didn't get what I needed at the right time. But people that I went with and people from our locals did very well. One of our local players actually went all the way to the finals. He finished second in total. He didn't quite win it, but it was a very, very close game. I watched the game and it was nail biting. It was turn after turn. You couldn't tell who was going to win, and it was a very, very good game. It was hosted by Geek Retreat in Ipswich. They put on a winner box event, and the pricing, I've got to give them the dues, was impressive. You know, I finished outside the top 8, and I think everyone that finished outside the top 8 got 2 packs each. There was 16 of us, so there's 32 packs there. Sorry, no, top 8. So there was 8 of us finished outside the top 8. So there was 16 packs there given away. I think then the next set of people who went out got either 3 or 4 packs each. So there would have been another 4 there. And then it ramped up from there. So second place ended up getting a trove, and first place got a booster box. So the pricing for a small event like that, I think they did really well, and we're hoping they're going to put more on, because it worked really well, and it really felt like there was a nice competitive event to go to that, hopefully they'll be able to do quite often, and we haven't got to travel 2-3 hours to go and do. So it'd be quite nice. But we'll have to try and convince our locals to do it. But we'll try.
But I think we did well, didn't we? It was 5 players, I think, travel from our locals. 3 made top 8, and I think nobody did less than 50%, right? Everybody won at least 50% of their games. So
I was 2-2. I was 2-2, and then I think all the others were either just above. So a couple of them got 2 wins and a draw, and then the rest of them all got into top 8 with either 3 wins or 2 and 2 draws or whatever it was. So yeah, they did really well. Like I said, fortunately 3 of them, I think it was 3, might have been 2 or 3 got knocked out in top 8, so they made it top 8 and went out on the first game. But our other player did manage to get through all the way to the final, so he did really well. I stuck around and watched it, and like I say, it was a really good game. So I took a very powerful deck, as obviously we spoke about a little bit with us having such a good day on Friday. So obviously I took the deck that I played on Friday, and I don't get me wrong, I had a good day. I took Sapphire Steel. I had a good day. I won 3 games 2-0. But I'm sorry, but compared to your record of 3-0 with 2-2-2-0s with what deck?
What else? I mean, the number 1 deck in the format, Ruby Amethyst.
Right, okay.
Yeah, I mean, it was, as Michael said, he went 3-0. A perfect record on the day, but it wasn't good enough. It might have taken 4 levels of count back to split us, but at the end of the day, Grandad Glenn was there at number 1. So we'll have to play that. We'll have to play that deciding match at some point.
Yeah, definitely.
But yeah, no, Ruby Amethyst, it was really interesting, right? So I've been working on it for a little while. I've been trying a few different things, and it feels like there might be something there. It might not be on life support anymore. It might have just about. It's got the doctor on standby, bringing nurses around. There's a bottle of oxygen there just in case. But actually, I think Ruby Amethyst might just be living in this meta. Okay, now, to be fair, I didn't play any Sapphire Steel. We didn't get drawn together. I got a very good Ruby Sapphire player in the last round, who, to be fair, was pretty unfortunate with his draws. I'll take it. But
Happens to us all.
it does. But yeah, no, really interesting. So I'm gonna keep giving it a go and seeing how.
Yeah, I mean, it's
how
nice
Ruby
to see.
Amethyst does, but...
It shows that the meta isn't locked down. There are decks that can still beat Sapphire Steel and Ruby Sapphire. It's not going to be as easy, obviously, but it's one of those ones of it is doable. So if you're not a Sapphire Steel or Ruby Sapphire player, and you're like, oh, I don't really want to start on this meta because I'm not going to play those decks. There's no reason not to. Like you say, we proved with the challenge deck. With the right deck in the right moment, you can win any game. It doesn't matter what your deck is. So yeah, no, it's and like I say, it'd be nice to see Ruby Amethyst ease back in. It normally does. Normally, you get halfway for a set, and then all of a sudden, Ruby Amethyst starts to appear back in there again. So it seems like you've broken it and got it in there a little bit earlier than what it should be.
Yeah, maybe we'll see. Yeah, I'll probably go 0-3 on Friday, and we'll be back to the start. But we'll see. It was nice. It was nice to be up there. So nice to be playing Ruby Amethyst again, actually.
Yeah.
But the other deck, as we said, there are other decks around. I believe that the winner box, although the top end of it was pretty Sapphire, from what I can understand, at least 3 of the top 4 were playing Sapphire decks. You said there was a lot of green purple around as well.
Yeah,
so,
there was.
That seems to be making an appearance. Was that the green purple discard variant?
Yeah, it's pretty much. So the top 4 was, the winner was Harlan, who obviously we had the pleasure of doing the interview a few episodes ago. So if you haven't seen that, check that out. That was a really good episode and really good interview. So we had Harlan on. He finished first. Obviously our local player finished second. And then obviously third and fourth, you don't really know who's finishing third, who's finished fourth. Obviously they both technically go out at the same time. Was another Ruby Sapphire player and a green purple. So green purple did make top 4. And then there was, I played against 2, and walking around the room I saw at least another 3, if not 4. So if you, argument's sake, say 5 out of 16 people, it's a decent showing of the room. There was a lot of obviously Sapphire Steel. I think there was only 2 players on Ruby Sapphire. I think it was only the 2 that made it to the end that were actually playing it. Everyone else was either on a different version. There was a couple of aggros. There was, I think, 2 lady decks. So I think, obviously, Adam, one of our locals, took one, and there was another player that was playing one. But yeah, it was a good mix. It was a good mix. Like I say, Adam made it to the top 8. So, again, what you'd call outside of the meta aggro deck, making it to top 8. So making it, I think he finished top of Swiss. So as much as he made top 8, he also finished top of, the Swiss rounds, which is obviously very impressive. So it did really well. So yeah.
Cool. So if you're playing around, if you're in the UK, you play around the Ipswich, Chelmsford, Colchester kind of radius, and there's a tournament coming up. Michael's just done a set 7 challenge deck, which is Amber Emerald. So that is what is going to be half of the field at your next local tournament. So
you
be
put this out
there.
If it actually is, that's it. We're on to something here. We're into everyone's got to be playing Blurple from now on, and then we might have a chance of winning some. So that leads us on towards the end of the podcast, and I know it's a little bit out of sync today. We wanted to make sure we jump straight in there with the learn to play right at the start, but as always, we do have our flavor text game for you. So last week's flavor text was great. Now I'm the bad guy. So I actually had 2 people come up to me and get this correct, which was nice. People starting to pick up the format. They're starting to understand the game, and it was Mother Gothel. Now we went for this one as the episode was due out around Mother's Day, so we thought it'd be a nice card to include. So going from there, no hold up at all. We'll go straight into what the flavor text is for this week. So this week we have a card that has featured in today's episode. So that is your hint. And the flavor text is, there's nothing he can't talk his way out of. So there's nothing he can't talk his way out of is the flavor text. So if you don't are new to the channel, below each card, like there was with Mother Gothel, there is a little piece of text that basically is the flavor text. So just here, where this book symbol is, it says great. Now I'm the bad guy, that was last week's, and that is where the flavor text will be found. So if you are new to the channel, that's what we are talking about, and that's where this week's flavor text will be, at the bottom of a card. So yeah, I think it's been a good one. I've enjoyed tonight's episode. It's been nice. The challenge was fun. I'm looking forward to what you can whip up in the future for me. I'm gonna have to set you one now. You know, I'm gonna have to think of one for you.
Yeah, but if you challenge me, we end up with monster puppies or some kind of craziness.
This is true. Although I might play monster
we'll always have a go.
Next week. And thank you very much for joining us on today's episode. And as we've said it before, unfortunately, it is very important. So please like, comment, and subscribe. We're not the sort of channel that's going to be bombarding you with videos. So feel free to hit that notification so you get the little notification when we do post a video. And yeah, thank you very much, Glenn, for joining us. It's time to roll up that playmat.
Pack away those dice.
And remember, stay uninkable. See you next time.
Today, listen to the show and learn to play. Whether you are new or you're a pro, I'm sure we have something to show. Amber, green, red, and steel, then purple, blue, complete our wheel. Listen and you'll learn some new strats to help you win some championship mats. So what ink color are you gonna choose? Inkable or uninkable? It is up to you.